It's big on it.
Summit and Destiny have met 7 times before. Tonight is number 8.
And the Tennessee Volunteers are the SEC Tournament champions. It's been a long time coming. The last time Tennessee won this tournament was in 1979, but they've got another trophy to put in the trophy case at Thompson Bowling Arena.
The 2023 SEC champions, the Tennessee Volunteers.
Hit high in the air into left field. Stevenson circling in front of the fence into foul ground. He goes into the corner, makes the catch, and that's the ball game.
And the Volunteers will hold the trophy.
How much fun is this, man? God, I love it. High fly, deep right, and Tennessee walks it off.
The 2-2 to Denton.
Well hit deep left field. It is gone.
For the win for the Volunteers. From 40. On the way, a knuckleball. He got it.
How much fun is this?
Man, Rocky Top. This is college football at its absolute best.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into another episode of the Vol Fanatic Show. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, we appreciate you, whether it be live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or if you're listening on the podcast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you tuning in. If you don't mind, give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, whatever it is on wherever you're watching. We appreciate it. I am Michael. Skylar, how are we doing today, my guy?
Dude, I will be honest. We've done better. All right, we've done better. It's been a rough week for some sports. It's been a great week for other sports. I'm really looking forward to getting deep into it. We got 3 big segments today, and we'll talk all about it. But before we do anything, what is your shout out of the week?
So I'm going to give a shout out of the week to a guy that he might not see this, but I'm going to shout out Vol for Life, Eric Ainge, as this past week, Eric Ainge became a married man. His girlfriend, Susan, and him got married on Wednesday. You asked me, why Wednesday? Well, it was actually a pretty touching story. So it was her dream to have her grandfather perform the ceremony, and he is not in the best of health right now. Their original plan was to get married next February, and they were afraid that he might not make it that long. So they went ahead and did a small wedding, a small ceremony with family and some very close friends, with her her grandfather officiating the wedding, and they're going to go through with a bigger wedding next year as planned. But shout out to Eric, shout out to Susan. Wish y'all nothing but a lifelong of happiness.
No, that's awesome. That's a great story, and massive shout out or congratulations to them too. I actually went back and listened to the Eric Ainge Show pod about him talking about that on Thursday, and that was pretty cool. That was really awesome. He couldn't stop referring to himself as Mrs. Ainge's husband.
Yeah.
It was great. So big congratulations to them. My shout out of the week is actually going to be Raider Nation. All right, if you're listening, it's Alan Anthony. Alan Anthony has been literally from day one follower of the Vol Fanatic Show, whether it be on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. And he's always interacted with almost every single post that we make. He's one of the very first people to like it. He shares it, comments it. He's always there. And I know I don't necessarily reach out to you directly, but I figured this was a little bit better. So thank you, Alan, for everything that you do. Raider Nation. All right, got to give my boy a shout out. And but we really do appreciate you. So before we move forward, before we talk about the segments, man, we couldn't do this for free if it wasn't for our guy, Chris Smith. Chris Smith Insurance is actually our exclusive sponsor for the Vol Fanatic Show. All insurance is not equal. Chris Smith does home, auto, commercial, life, toys, boats, RVs, you name it. If you don't have an agent that you like, trust, and know, then you should call Chris and his team. When customers have an issue like a claim, Chris will actually go out on site, meet the adjuster, something that, quite honestly, not too many agents in this industry do. Me working in restoration, he's the only one that I've seen do that. So he is your advocate, not just a salesperson. Anything you need insurance-wise, give Chris Smith a call at 865-272-3387. Thank you, Chris. And Michael, what do we got to talk about today?
So we're going to start off today's segment talking about the Lady Vols from this past week. Then we will move right along into the men's team. Then we've got some spring sports that we're going to talk about. We've got Lady Vols softball. We've got Vol baseball. And we're going to finish today with a very short segment, giving you a little update on some recruiting, some of the NCAA allegations, and then at the very end, I want to hear your brief thoughts on the Super Bowl tonight, because it is Super Bowl Sunday. We're not big NFL fans. We're college guys, but we're gonna be watching that.
Oh, football season was over, my guy. My bad, dude. That's on me. That's on me, dude. No, all right, that's fair. So let's get into it, because let's talk about Lady Vols basketball. All right, it's once again a 1-in-1 week, kind of frustrating. But what are your overall thoughts? Is it something that we can? Before we really get into it, is it not eerily similar how like the ladies and the men's are position wise, with it being standings and inconsistencies and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both teams are sitting, right there at the top of the conference, not quite number one, but they're both sitting at the top. They're both, losing either at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the week. I mean, it's very eerily similar, but it's also different play styles the way that it's happening. So let's start off on a positive note. Is last Sunday, while we were live, the Lady Vols were playing against the Missouri Tigers at the Food City Center, and came away with a victory 80-69 in the game. What are your thoughts on this game right here?
Much needed. Never
Absolutely.
really in doubt. Got the lead early, kind of kept it. Missouri made some runs, but overall Tennessee stayed ahead. But no, it much needed.
But how about this right here? So we've talked about at times this year how the Lady Vols, they get off to a slow start, they end up having to come back in the second half. What about a 28-17 first quarter that, like you mentioned, they never looked back after they got ahead?
No, and that's fair. And they didn't really cool off in the second quarter. You can have a hot quarter and then after a timeout break or something like that, kind of cool back down, but they kind of kept the pressure on. And that was good to see, because like you mentioned it, first halves have been kind of a struggle this year for the Lady Vols. But that day it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Shot 50% from the field, 32 of 63, 8 of 23 from the 3-point line. Free throws were a little bit down, 8 of 14, just barely over 50%. But out rebounded Missouri 33-29. You also doubled them up on assists, 18 assists on 32 made baskets compared to 9 assists for Missouri on 27 made baskets. You actually didn't turn the ball over that much, that was a positive. That's something that has been very concerning for the Lady Vols this year is the turnover numbers, and the fact that you stay in single digits in the turnover category. That's where you want to be, and the Lady Vols have not been there very much this year. Then outscored Missouri in the paint 44-34. So you did exactly what you needed to do in this game.
No, absolutely. And my girl Sarah Puckett came to play, 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. And that's what we needed to see. And I want to ask you this, Miss Spear, Jewel Spear. I'm telling you what, man, this last couple of weeks, she's been coming to play some ball.
She has. She knows that teams are going to be keying on Rakia Jackson, and somebody else has got to step up. And she's that girl right now for the Lady Vols. She's stepping up, like you mentioned. Sarah Puckett stepped up, had a really good game in that one as well. But when somebody's got to step up, Jewel Spears says, "Hey, give me the ball. I'll take it."
Absolutely. But now let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we know how the following game went. But this is something you had to do against yet another inferior opponent. Take care of the business. Missouri's not that competitive this year, as they are 11-11 and 2-7 in the conference. But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do to keep the ball rolling, and unfortunately, it didn't last long. But Big game from several key Vols. Rickea Jackson. It's funny, we haven't really been talking about her, but she's kind of been steady Eddie there, 15 to 20 points almost every game. Not really that take the top off type game. Is that a worry? Is that a question mark? Or
I don't think it is because I'm going to kind of reference Dalton Connect here. Yesterday he didn't really have his best game, but he still had 22 points yesterday. And you're sitting here thinking, well, the last couple of games he hadn't just been standout Dalton Connect like we've seen a few games, but he's still getting his. And same thing with Rickea Jackson here. Even though Jewel Spears kind of taking the spotlight right now of being the leading scorer the last few games, Rickea Jackson, like you mentioned, is still getting that 15 to 20 mark each night. So she's still getting hers. It's just she's not that standout player. She's got somebody else to help her along with it.
Right. Absolutely. But yeah, so Tennessee gets the win last Sunday. They are not playing today. They are actually playing Monday, I believe, against Arkansas.
Yep. But, and we'll get into that after we talk about this second game, but that is also going to be Pink Out night in Food City Center.
That's right. I didn't really want to talk about this game because I don't like losing to Bama, but that is exactly what our Lady Vols did, and it wasn't really that close. Lady Vols take a loss against Alabama at Alabama, 72-56. Michael, what just wasn't clicking for the offense? What was going on in that one?
Well, what ended up happening is Alabama did a very, very good job defending Rickea Jackson, defending Jewel Spear, trying to make the other players come out and beat them. And credit to Alabama, they did a fantastic job doing that. And not only that, this game ended up being a game of runs. The first quarter, Alabama led 16-14 at the end, and then they went out to about an 11-point lead at one point in the second quarter. Tennessee did come back and cut it to 2 at halftime, but then a 28-14 third quarter by Alabama pushed that lead out to 16. Tennessee cut it back down to either 5 or 7, I believe, in the fourth quarter, but ultimately Alabama pushed it back out to get the 16-point victory. And, when you get a big deficit like that, it's very hard to come back. You spend so much energy trying to come back and even it up that when the other team goes on that run again, it's hard to do that, come back a second time.
Absolutely. In a game where it's a lot of inconsistencies, it's kind of crazy how consistent the Lady Vols were. Could you imagine a game where a team scores the exact same amount of points in each quarter of the game? It's exactly
I did not even catch that.
Yeah, that's exactly what your Lady Vols did. 14, 2 touchdowns apiece in each quarter is what your Lady Vols did, and just wasn't enough. I mean, when you don't win a single quarter in a game, you're not gonna win the game. So very poor offense, but credit to Bama's defense, man. They were locked down. They keyed on Jewel Spear, Rickea Jackson, and Sarah Puckett had an okay day, 2 of 5 from the 3-point line, but overall just not enough. And Bama got the better half of the Lady Vols.
Yeah, and looking down the stats right here, Tennessee, they shot 35.3% from the field compared to Alabama's almost 46%. And Tennessee only shot 16.7% from the 3, and Alabama was 36.8%. So that's a big difference. Free throw line, they both missed 4 free throws in the game, so that didn't do too much. But where I see a big difference is Tennessee actually had 34 points in the paint compared to Alabama's 20, but Alabama was just hitting from deep.
I was going to say they were 7 of 19, shooting 36% from deep, but they were also shooting 46% from the field, whereas Tennessee was only shooting 35. So that's definitely the big difference in the game. Now, I just want to ask you kind of off the record here, because anybody can really read out some numbers, but what's this say to you about the Lady Vols program, where they are right now, where they're headed, the momentum? It kind of feels like there's just no momentum right now. And I know that sounds gutless because, I mean, the Lady Vols are at the top of the conference, and really it's South Carolina and then everybody else. And we're right there at the top with everybody else. But obviously South Carolina's undefeated at like 22-0. And but you've got like 3 or 4 teams right there tied for second, which Tennessee's right there. But it just feels like there's no big momentum. I'm not saying that I don't believe in this team to make a run, but it just kind of feels like we're stagnant right now, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, but I also want to credit that to the teams that Tennessee has played. There hasn't been just these big name teams that Tennessee has played yet. I mean, Alabama is a very comparable opponent, and when you look at their overall record, they're 19-6 on the year, 6-4 in the conference. So I mean, they're sitting in the top half of the conference as well, and Alabama got the better of them. A team like Ole Miss that Tennessee lost to, they're a comparable opponent, but they're not South Carolina. They're not LSU. Those are the teams that Tennessee is about to start playing here in this next little stretch. And it's going to be very difficult for Tennessee, but if they can pull an upset or two out of this stretch right here, there's where your momentum starts. And that's where Tennessee can pick up some steam. And they're going to have to down the stretch because it's time to buckle down and get ready to start tournament.
Well, they've only got 6 games left. I mean, it's time to nut up or shut up. I mean, Look, they play Arkansas tomorrow. Then they play number 1 South Carolina. That ain't no cakewalk. I mean, that's the upset I think you're talking about, though. Either them or LSU coming up. But you got Arkansas, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, LSU ranked 13th in the nation, Texas A&M, South Carolina again. So,
yeah, and that stretch right there, sorry to cut you off, but I mean, you've got Arkansas. I've got the I don't really have the preview pulled up right now, so I don't know how good Arkansas women are, but you got South Carolina undefeated, number 1 in the nation. You've got LSU, you mentioned, number 13 in the nation, probably sitting second in the conference right now after Tennessee's lost this past week.
Yep.
You've got a Vanderbilt team that has been not so good as of late once they got into conference play, but at one point this year was undefeated, even including the conference play. You've got a Texas A&M team that you lost to on the road earlier this year. So that's a revenge game that you can get a good win at Food City Center. And then you mentioned again, number 1 South Carolina to conclude the year. So you've got a lot of traction for the end of the season, and you're going to have to win a couple of games because we mentioned last week, the Lady Vols are sitting on the bubble, and they have not missed an NCAA tournament since NCAA tournament was put into effect in women's basketball.
Yeah, man. I mean, South Carolina is ranked number 1, obviously, across the board. But, I mean, Arkansas, A&M, Vanderbilt's all right there in the middle of the standings in the SEC. 5-5 and 4-5, and then Vanderbilt's 4-6 in the conference. So they don't really have one of those cakewalk type games the rest of the season. I mean, they really have to be focused, which is something that we've struggled with on the men's side too. But they got to be focused, win some of the. I mean, they have to win. I think, in my opinion, they got to win 4 of the next 6.
I think I agree with you. In my opinion, I think this is the most reasonable path to it. Is you beat all those teams except for South Carolina twice, because I really don't see a team in the conference beating South Carolina this year. Now, there could be an upset come NCAA tournament time, but I think that South Carolina, they sweep the regular season, they sweep the conference tournament, and go into the NCAA tournament unblemished. I appreciate you tuning in, Eric, with the Ohio podcast. Glad to see you this week, and I hate that you won't be live tonight because of the Super Bowl, but we'll be we'll be ready for you to go live again, man.
What's going on tonight? I don't understand. What's the big deal tonight? No, I'm joking. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. I know my folks are tuned in. Jay's tuned in. Misty, Jeremy, thank you so much. If y'all could do us a favor while y'all are tuned in, give us a like and share the stream, man. Share it out. Get it on your feed. Put us at the top. Let everybody know that I don't even know what's going on tonight, but get the folks something to watch today, and maybe we can talk some Vols. So, no, Lady Vols, they've got 6 games remaining in the season. They've really not had a terrible season. They've just not been able to put it together. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's kind of frustrating, but they really got to bring it these next, I guess, 3 weeks now. I don't want to really talk about stuff like this, but if they miss the tournament, what implications does that have around the program?
It's definitely uncharted territory. So Tennessee fans being Tennessee fans. I saw a bunch of this on Twitter last night after the game. Tennessee fans are going to go crazy if the Lady Vols don't make the tournament, because that's not what the Lady Vols do. They make the tournament every year. They make at least a Sweet 16 run every year. That's just the way that it is. And if they happen to miss the tournament, it's not going to be pretty up on Rocky Top.
And I really like Kelly Harper. I mean, she played for Pat Summitt. I mean, she knows firsthand what that team was like and how she can coach it. But I don't know. I don't know the answer. I want to see her stick around. I want to see it work out, and that's why I hope that the Lady Vols do go on a run here late in the season. But I am worried. I'd be remiss if I wasn't.
Yeah, but we mentioned it earlier this year. That's a tough job that Kelly Harper has, because I know you had Holly Warlick before you had
See,
Kelly.
that one was worse. That one was worse. And she wasn't even like that bad. It's just when you follow, like, I know the point you're about to make. When you follow
Pat Summitt,
the greatest to ever do it, the first coach to 1,000 wins in coaching history, yeah, you're going to be held up to some high expectations.
Yeah.
And it's really unfair, but that's the standard that really all of our sports need to be at.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We don't take a backseat to nobody. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So
you got anything else on the Lady Vols before we move forward?
No, man, let's move forward. But before we move forward, I want to show the folks what they could be wearing if they go and check out the Vol Fanatic Show merchandise store. The link is in most bios, I think, everywhere around Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, probably on X or Twitter, however you know it. But guys, check out the merch store right here. Pretty proud of it. Pretty cool stuff right here. I've actually got the phone case that we ordered from it. There's the phone case right there. Really dig it. We've been working pretty hard on this. We have had some feedback on the square logo, because that's the only one I really had. So Michael's worked really hard and actually built up a circular logo only that we will eventually change these hats to, because I think that's the biggest feedback we've been getting. But you got the trucker's hat if you like the netting, and then we've also got the flat bill kind of baseballish style hat like this. If you're looking for that, t-shirts, anything like that, y'all be sure to check out the Vol Fanatics merchandise store on Streamlabs. So let's get to talking about the men's basketball team.
So we'll start off on a high point, as Tennessee on Wednesday night beat LSU 88-68, and Skylar, they're for a little bit in the second half. It got kind of sketchy as LSU cut it down to, what was it, like 6 points?
Yeah, I think so. After being in the lead by like 22, yeah, it was.
It was up to 26 at one point. That was Tennessee's largest lead in the game. So
I do have a thought on that. It was super frustrating there for a moment, because I'm like, what are we doing? Like, we're just throwing it away. But like, I also have a feeling that Rick Barnes is really just teetering with the lineups. Like, he was trying to figure out what could work later on in the season. Who can play with who and it still work out, kind of save his guys, keep them fresh. So I understood that. And like, you seen, like, when it got down to business, like, he threw in Dalton Connect, he threw in Zakai Ziegler, Triple J, Adu. He put the scoring and the biggest defense back on the court. But like, from that perspective, I'm like, okay, I understand it. But also, I'm a big believer in, like, you never take the foot off the Tiger's neck.
Yeah, I'm
off the Tiger's neck. And so it was one of those things where we could have easily, coughed that one up if we wasn't on our toes.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I do also see where you're coming from with that. But as a coach, you've also got to play that fine line right there, where you want to make sure that you have guys that you can trust when you get down to the nitty-gritty of the tournament time. So I do think that you could have kept some of those starters, some of your main guys out there, while getting some of these other guys some playing time, just to see what works. But it's a fine line that you gotta teeter on right there to figure that out. And Rick Barnes is a good coach, and I think he did a good job of trying to have the good mix going on there. And, when push came to shove, he got his guys back in there, and you see Tennessee came out with a 20-point victory.
No, absolutely. And real quickly, want to say shout out Jade and Jeremy for sharing the show. We really do appreciate you guys. But no, Vols got the big win there. Was there a surprise, like, standout for you on the team? Like, was there somebody that kind of took over that you were like, wow, he had a really good game? Or I know we mentioned Cameron Carr. He got a lot of minutes in this game. We kind of think we really believe that this kid's going to be something special kind of in the future. But just kind of overall, your thoughts on it? Was it just kind of, it really seemed like in the moment, it was just another day at the office for the Tennessee Vols.
Well, the first half was something special, man. I mean, Tennessee just could not miss in that first half. Shot, like, I think it was 65% from the field in the first half. They were 9 of 13 from the three-point line at halftime. And Jordan Gainey, man, had himself a game.
That was my answer.
Yeah, he had 18 points. He was 6 of 9 from the field, 3 of 6 from the three-point line, as well as going 3 of 3 from the foul line. And, it was one of those games where Vescovy didn't play very much. He only had 2 points. But when you've got a guy that's got the hot hand like Jordan Gainey did, man, you stick with that hot hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Gainey was he had a big basket that game. And Cameron Carr, I mentioned him because he really, it's funny, he pulls up like he's super confident in his shot, but honestly, he couldn't find the basket. And it almost looked like he was forcing it. I think that's why Rick Barnes pulled him out. But Jamal Meshack didn't really attribute too much off the bench, but I do feel like he's one of our best defenders on this team.
Oh, absolutely. He's
no doubt.
He's, in my opinion, the best on-ball defender on this team. The only other person I think that could compare would be Zakai Ziegler. And both of them are very good defenders. I firmly believe that if you took the starting 5 for Tennessee, at least 4 of those would make the all defensive team for the entire NCAA.
And I love that. I'm always a big defensive guy, but it just feels like in this day and age, defense doesn't win championships. And
well, you've got to have an offense to go with that defense, and that's what Tennessee has been missing in the past. And this year, I feel like they've got that at times. They still go through their lulls, and we'll get to the next game where they did not play very well on offense, and we both got some thoughts on that. But yeah, defense still wins the championships. You just got to have an offense to go with it as well. One stat that stands out to me that normally, if I was to just read this stat out to you, tell me what you think would happen. LSU 40 rebounds, Tennessee 26.
That would mean to me LSU's getting a bunch of second chance points.
Which means LSU probably wins the game, correct?
Yeah. Or keeps it close. And I think that had a lot to do with how they made a run back. I mean, we lost the intensity. They were shooting, and if they'd miss, but now that's been an issue the last several games, actually. I don't know the exact numbers. We'll get to it in the next game. But just watching the game, it does feel like we're not going after rebounds the way we should.
Yeah, I agree with you on that because and that's going to come back to hurt down the stretch here if Tennessee cannot fix that. But
to what counteracts that rebound 40 to 26, if you look, we only had 7 turnovers to LSU's 16.
Yep.
We shot 45.8% from the arc to LSU's 24. And then we also shot 55 from the field to LSU's 41. But not every day are you going to be hitting the bucket like that. And we seen that literally not one game later where we got cold as ice. And at the end of the day, it's basketball. It's going to happen at some point sooner rather than later. And I kind of told you, I kind of felt like we would take a step back. In fact, let's just go ahead and let's talk about it because it wasn't a pretty game, right? But we go into A&M and College Station, but obviously we didn't show up, dude. I mean, from the jump, A&M just started hitting literally every shot possible. Their guard, dude, I can't remember his name. Taylor. Wait, is it
Yeah.
Wade Taylor?
Wade Taylor.
Brother did not miss. I think he started 3 of 3 or 4 of 4 from the arc, and that set the tone of the game. And we've got to figure out how to flush it. I feel like emotions, we can't control our emotions. I could be wrong on that, but just watching the basketball team, it feels like we get frustrated and they can't flush it. You know, Heupel was big about that in football. Like, don't let what happened on one play affect the next one. And I'm sorry to go back to football. That's just who I am. I don't play basketball. But it feels like this team in basketball has a hard time letting a big play just flush it, move on to the next possession.
I'm going to agree with you but disagree with you too. I felt like at times this team has a hard time flushing a bad play and going and making a good play afterwards. And yesterday was one of those times. But I also have seen times this year where they seem to get over that bad play pretty quick and start making that good play happen. But, we've seen a couple of times yesterday, South Carolina, North Carolina in the first half where, things started going wrong and then the ball kept rolling down the hill and it could not be stopped. But so I think that I agree with you, but I disagree with you on that note at the same time. But yeah, it was a bad mix yesterday for Tennessee. And some of my thoughts on it are, you mentioned Wade Taylor yesterday. He actually made his first 5 3-pointers. He was 5 of 7 to start the game, 5 of 5 actually to start. And then he had a little heat check moment. He come down, pulled a Steph Curry where he's, 35.
He was feeling it, dude. He was feeling it. Like,
and he nearly made that one that he missed as well. I mean, he was in some sort of zone to start that game. And I mean, when you've got Wade Taylor and then Radford, I can't remember his first name, they went for 25 and 27 respectfully in that game. I mean, what's his name? Tyrese. Yep, Tyrese Radford. I mean, they were feeling it.
They combined for 52 points.
Yeah, 52 of their 85 points.
And then Washington had an additional 11. I mean, like, literally, we got beat by 4 guys. And it was noticeable when you're watching it. You're like, dang, like, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really mad at the defense. Like, I've always been a kind of guy that's like, all right, statistics work out. You let them shoot the 3, but don't let them come in on you. But then it got to the point to where they were sinking every 3. They had to adjust the defense, and then they started driving in. It just left so many wide open shots for A&M. I mean, they just had a great game plan going to that game. I don't know what was in their veins that night, but clearly we didn't come with the same, enthusiastic, aggression, whatnot. Foul trouble. Refs were kind of an issue. Apparently the coach can run out in the court anytime he wants to. There was just a lot that went into that game. And A&M, give them credit, man. They came and played ball. And they did cool down a little bit, but it did feel like anytime we went to make a real push, A&M seemed to hit the shot that they needed to hit to keep us at bay, to keep us at arm's length. And I think that was the most frustrating thing. We would get, we were down by a lot at one point. I can't remember. It was like 20, 21, 23. We got
22 was A&M's largest lead.
Yeah, and we got it down to 11, dang near. I think we even got it down to 8 at one point. We had possession. I don't know if we missed a shot or had a turnover. Rebounds was a killer in this game, but then they would go right back down and get an and-1 or shoot a 3 and hit it. And I was just like that. It just always took the breath away, took the wind out of the sails, however you want to say it. But A&M did exactly what they needed to do. I did not see an 85-point performance from A&M against what we all know is a really good defense, just didn't show up to play.
Yeah, and, talking about rebounding, Anderson Garcia, he's leading the SEC in rebounds per game. And dude had 6 points yesterday, but had 17 rebounds. I mean, that's when you got a guy that's like grabbing every single rebound that comes off. I mean, that it's impressive. And, we've got a guy that I feel like does that in Tobe Awaka. When he's on the court, he's grabbing every single rebound, but he couldn't match with Garcia yesterday. None of the big guys could, but I do have some thoughts on this game. So Tennessee most of the year has done a good job of playing the type game that needs to be played. They Would you agree that in Rick Barnes' tenure, for the most part, Tennessee is a set offense, move the ball, they're looking for the best shot, they take most of the shot clock, right?
Yeah.
All right. But, we've seen from this year's team especially where they can play that run and gun game if they need to, as they did against Kentucky. And they can play it pretty well when they need to.
Right. Like, depending on who their opponent is, they can change up the way they play, change up their play style to match the other opponent matchup-wise.
They didn't do that yesterday.
I agree.
So they came off of the Kentucky game, and the LSU game was kind of the same way, where you needed to play that fast-paced game. And Tennessee tried playing that game with Texas A&M yesterday, and just it wasn't going to work. They would come down, they'd jack up a quick shot, whether it be, trying to drive in, pull up mid-range, pull up from three, whatever it was. It just was not working. And when Tennessee would try to slow it down and use a shot clock, look for their shot, credit to Texas A&M's defense, they did a good job of not allowing Tennessee to do that. And as soon as Tennessee, whether it be a made basket, a missed basket, whatever, Texas A&M would come down, make a basket, and Tennessee's like, okay, we got to get down, we got to score. They would use up maybe 8 seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah.
And, missed basket, Texas A&M's going right back down the court. So it came down to Tennessee was outplayed, outcoached, out everything yesterday.
Well, I don't think they adjusted. So Tennessee's usually known for their physicalness, right? Their aggression. And A&M had that. There was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I watched that game, most of it. I sent you a message when I was just effing done. But I ended up watching more of it after that. But I was like, you know what? My emotions are gone. I'm done. But there was a lot of contact on a lot of buckets, and credit to the refs, I guess. They were pretty consistent most of the night, and the fact that they wasn't calling anything. A&M knew that, took advantage of it. I don't feel like Tennessee really took advantage of that. And in fact, I felt like we kind of got bullied for it.
That's one thing that I feel like Tennessee needs to do a better job of. Is it's not just yesterday's game. There's been a few different times this year where Tennessee has not been the team to adjust to the referee's whistles, and it's come back to haunt them. It nearly came back and got them against Vanderbilt in Nashville. They were not playing the way that the referees were allowing the game to be played. That's what happened against South Carolina. Now, I know that's a little bit different. There was one possession where Tennessee had like 4 fouls called on them, and that messed with them a little bit. But you play how the referees allow you to play, and a credit to Texas A&M for doing that yesterday, because Tennessee did not.
No, absolutely. And it's almost like we were forcing them to call but like it just wasn't happening. And instead of changing it around or whatnot, it's almost like we just kept trying. And then, like I mentioned, emotions, because how many times did a guy go up for like a layup, like Jamal Mashak or a don't connect, completely just get swatted by 3 bodies, right? And then they're just immediately turn around like, how was it, not a foul, instead of like just getting back on defense. And like you mentioned, they were so quick on transition offense that bit us a lot in the game. And it was quite frustrating. I do have a question for you.
Okay.
So within a span of a week, we've seen the best version of Tennessee, pretty close to at least, and also probably one of the worst versions of Tennessee.
Yep.
How do we make sure we never have another one of those worst versions of Tennessee again as we rally? I mean, we got about 8 games left in the season, 3 or 4 weeks, and before we get into tournament play.
Rick Barnes. That's a simple answer to me. I think Rick Barnes is going to pull the film for these guys, let them see that, and be like, look, he's got some 5th-year seniors on this team, and Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan-James. And, you can add in Dalton Connect to that mix because of the veteran player that he is. He's going to have to look these guys in the eye and be like, look, I can only do so much over on the sidelines. I need you guys, whenever it looks like we're starting to get back into this, I guess, bad groove, you would call it. When we start playing bad basketball like this, you're going to have to calm everybody down, look them in the eyes, and be like, hey, just play. I think that's going to be a big advantage for Tennessee this year, is just the veterans on this team, along with the veteran coach that Rick Barnes is. I think that's what's going to help a lot of things, because, how many times this year have we seen this bad Tennessee show up? I can think of like 3 times.
Mississippi State.
Two and a half. Well, okay, yeah, three times then. Because you got Texas A&M yesterday, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
The first half of Mississippi State, and then the first half of North Carolina back earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically 3 games out of they've played 22, 23?
Yeah.
So I don't see that happening on a consistent basis. And, I'm still going to be the positive guy here. I'd rather see it right now than see it come March.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. And the season's not lost by any means, but number 1 seed's gone, and we're clinging and hoping and praying for a number 2 at this point, in my opinion.
Well, I that's where I'm going to disagree with you again because, on a weekly basis this year, you're seeing top 10 teams drop. I mean, Tennessee got into the 1 line this past week because North Carolina lost, Arizona lost. I mean, I feel like there is 6 teams that have a chance of being on the 1 line. 3 of them are pretty much locks. You've got UConn, you've got Purdue, you've got Houston, and then your last one's either going to be Tennessee, Arizona, or North Carolina, depending on who wins and who loses towards the end of the season.
Yeah, that loss last night definitely hurt though. But
I think
like
Tennessee,
you mentioned,
as long as Tennessee does not just absolutely crap the bed, I think they're going to be a 2 seed.
I agree with you, but at this point, it's almost way more realistic of being a 2 seed, and it probably always was. But I do feel like we had a really good shot if we took care of business against the teams that we needed to take care of business to. Like you, in the remaining schedule, I know you play Kentucky again, and you play Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina. I was thinking if you took care of the teams that you needed to take care of, you could afford to lose 1 or 2 games of those type games and still be in the discussion 100%. But the problem is when you lose to a team like A&M, it takes away the leash. Like at that point, you have to go out here and win these games. But I mean, we've talked about how you got to end a season. We have to rematch A&M in a couple weeks. And then the stretch after that is Auburn, 12th ranked, Alabama, 16th ranked.
At Alabama on top of that.
South Carolina, 15th ranked.
South Carolina.
And at home, 17th ranked Kentucky. That is a hell of a stretch. And so losing to A&M, like I said, it just takes away that leash. I mean, you got to go out there and take care of business. And there is a specific player that I do want to talk about because it has been brought to my attention off stream to a viewer, and she's very frustrated with Santiago Vescovi. And I didn't really have an argument for it. I just said, hey, like Vescovi makes up on defense for what he lacks on offense this year, and at least other guys are stepping up like Triple J. The problem is when Triple J has a bad game and Vescovi has a bad game and whatnot. But I guess my question, and we seen it a crap ton last night, where Vescovi gets the ball on the arc and he does a pump fake instead of taking the shot, even when somebody's really not there to pump fake it. Why is the guy not shooting the ball?
That's a good question. And I don't know if he's going through a stretch where he's not confident in his shot or what it is. I mean, he did knock down a 3 yesterday in the game. That was it was a pretty clutch 3 at the time, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not sure. I felt like that he was finally getting his groove with the role that he needed to be playing with Dalton Connect and Jordan Ganian and all those guys. But I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, like we said, dude, Tennessee's only a game and a half back of first place in the SEC. I mean, it feels like we're so much further away here lately because the way the last 2 weeks have gone. But we're sitting there at 7-3. The problem is, man, the SEC is competitive, and we've said that all year long. We are literally a game away from being like tied for 5th or 6th place.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
We're also a game and a half away from being first place. So, you've got, I think, eight teams at 6-4 or better. And then you've got a couple teams at 5-5, 5-6. And it just, the margin is a lot smaller than it was, and that's our fault. But at the end of the day, it's basketball. I knew we were going to have a game at some point where the lid's just on the basket. It just really sucked that it happened when a team that you didn't expect to be as hot as they were end up being as hot as they were. And A&M, when they come out shooting 5 of 5 from the 3-point arc with one guy alone, it was just a bad recipe. It was a disaster from the start of the game. And credit to A&M in that arena because, man, they were loud.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Texas A&M is a very passionate fan base, but now that I look at the upcoming schedule for Tennessee, I'm going to be the positive guy once again. I don't think that game could have happened at a better time based on the schedule, because you've got a Arkansas team that they're still tough, but they're down this year. You've got Vanderbilt coming up after that, and then you've got Missouri coming up the following game. So you've got two teams. Actually, all three of those teams are in the bottom of the conference. Arkansas is 3-7 in conference. Vanderbilt 1-9, and you've got Missouri sitting at 0-11 in the conference. So you've got the bottom three teams in the conference coming up in your next 3 games to get things right before you go back on that brutal stretch of Texas A&M, Alabama, South Carolina, Auburn, Kentucky. I know I got those games out of order, but
yeah, you know what we call that?
What's that?
The calm before the storm.
Absolutely. Hey, give me all of it though. I'm all for playing games down the stretch that's going to determine seeding for SEC tournaments, for national tournaments. Hey, give me all of that, man.
Yeah. I wish we took care of business a little bit better in the regular season, so it doesn't feel like the SEC championship means that much. But at the same time, I really appreciate it that it does feel like now the SEC championship tournament means a lot, because it should, as every SEC tournament or SEC championship should mean a lot. And in Tennessee case, it could be what saves them or even gets them a 2 seed or higher in the tournament.
Yeah. So before we move on to softball, I've got one more question for you. We had this conversation back earlier this year. How many teams you think are going to make the NCAA tournament from the SEC?
Oh, bet. All right. Yeah.
All right. I think earlier this year I said that there is a minimum of 5 that will make it. I can see 9 teams back earlier. I think you were kind of on the same thing. I think you might have said 17.
I was
most that you saw.
I was around 7, and I kind of still feel like I'm around 7.
So you think that the most that'll make it is 7?
No, I mean I think the most could probably be 8.
8.
I just don't see 9. I don't, but I think 8. And it's probably not. A&M's helped their case a lot with that Tennessee win, though. But originally, I was thinking not A&M and Ole Miss, but that would be if they were to get 9 in. A&M and Ole Miss have to really kind of put in work here lately, but no, I think almost now the minimum 6 teams. The way everything's shaken out, I mean, there's no way there's less than 6 teams in.
I think you're right on that, but I think I'm gonna stick with my original guns of saying minimum 5. I think Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, and South Carolina are locks. Florida and Texas A&M, I believe, are in. I'm going to go the maximum could be 9 teams, because you got both Mississippi schools sitting right there in the middle. Ole Miss sitting at 5-5 in the conference. Mississippi State sitting at 5-6.
Mississippi State has a big win thanks to us.
They do.
Yeah.
And just let's see. Did they beat?
They beat Kentucky, didn't they? No, they didn't.
Oh, they play Kentucky this week, and that is in Rupp. By the way, Kentucky has lost in Rupp 3 straight games, and that has never happened in the history of Rupp Arena.
You love to see it, but then we go and lose to A&M, and it makes it really hard to make fun of them because we can't take care of our business. So,
yeah. But Ole Miss has got a stretch down here that they can make a case for them as well. They've got Kentucky coming up in the midweek, and they play Missouri. You got to take care of business against Missouri. They've got Missouri twice in these last few games. Then you've got Georgia down there towards the end you got to take care of business against as well. Mississippi State and Ole Miss play head-to-head down the stretch. So whoever wins that game is going to go a long way towards deciding which one of those teams could make it in. And then you've got big games. I already mentioned Kentucky. You've also got South Carolina and Alabama, and you got Texas A&M. All of those are at home.
Wow.
If you're Ole Miss, you've got to take care of
advantage.
business at those home games because that's going to go a long way towards deciding if you're going to make the tournament or not. Taking a look at Mississippi State real quick, they've got some games that they can make up some ground with make up ground with too. You know, they've got Arkansas in the midweek. Or sorry, that's going to be next weekend. They get the midweek bye this week. Then
you're starting to see a lot of the teams taking their midweek bye. And then the three of the teams that haven't are actually at the top of the standings in the SEC, with South Carolina, Alabama, Auburn all probably taking their midweek byes coming up this week. I'd have to assume.
You're probably right, or at least in the next 2 weeks, I would say.
Right.
Mississippi State's got Arkansas this coming weekend, and then I already mentioned the head-to-head against Ole Miss and LSU. Those are games you've got to take care of business if you are Mississippi State, because after that, you've got Kentucky at home, Auburn on the road, Texas A&M on the road, and then finish off the season at home against South Carolina. So both of these teams can make their case for making the field of 68, but you got to take care of business down the stretch. So I think that the SEC has got a minimum of 5, a maximum of 9 that can make the tournament, but 9 is going to be a tall task. I think 8 is more likely.
And I think that really depends on how they do. I mean, if they go in the SEC tournament and go one and done when you're on the bubble like that, you're probably not going to get in, because at that point the tournament does really mean a lot to those teams. And so it just really depends how they finish the season, how they do in the tournament. Because like if you're a team like Kentucky, Tennessee, you can lose in the SEC tournament and still be just fine in the big March Madness bracket. At that point, you're just nitpicking on what seed you are, because I mean, obviously, you want to be in the top 3 seeds for making your life a little bit easier to get into the Sweet 16, Elite 8. But no, I agree with you. And if you don't have anything else for these men's basketball players and the team and what they got to do to wrap it up, but we do have Arkansas tomorrow on ESPN2. That's going to be at 9:00 Eastern. It's at Arkansas. I think, and I don't want to sound ridiculous here or anything like that, I think that's going to be Rick Barnes got in our team's what, and it better be a 30-point win for the Volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move into softball, I do have a quick message. Keep an eye out on social media this coming week, everyone, because we had a teaser graphic go out on the 1st of February. Got another one coming for you this week, so be on the lookout for that. I'm seeing some messages from Eric over at the Ohio podcast over on Twitter, and got another exciting teaser coming out this week, so be on the lookout for that.
Absolutely. And before we move on to the next segment, I do want to let you guys know that we are sponsored by Chris Smith Insurance. For all your insurance needs, whether it's home, auto, commercial, life, toys, boats, RVs, you name it. If you don't have an agent that you like, know, and trust, then you need to give Chris and his team a call. So if you ever have a claim and adjuster needs to come out, Chris is one of those guys that will actually come out on site and meet that adjuster, take care of you. He is your advocate, not just a salesperson. For all your insurance needs, give Chris Smith a call at 865-272-3387. Thank you, Chris. So we had a fun week in softball. Baseball starts next week. Tiger Woods is playing next week. We got a lot going on, dude. All right. I don't know why I threw in Tiger Woods, but it's Tiger Woods, so why not? Let's talk about these Lady Vols and the softball team, because, man, I want to make it clear. These two teams in our program, softball and baseball, have the absolute highest expectation in the athletic department, period.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some games to talk about this week, but we kind of dropped the ball a little bit last week. We should have started talking about softball because they played this past week. So real quick, we're going to give you a preview of the Tennessee softball team, as they are ranked number 2 in the country to start the year, behind only Oklahoma, who, I mean, anybody that knows anything about softball knows Oklahoma is the team to beat year in and year out.
Who?
I wish I could say that, but softball, Okay, don't know what just happened there.
I don't know either. Did you click on something? You messing up the stream, my boy.
Not to my knowledge, but
we both just got logged out. I said who, and somebody got mad.
yeah. Streamlabs, what's going on? So,
they got to be Oklahoma fans. That's crazy.
But Tennessee is also projected to win the conference tournament this year. They had 6 first-place votes, along with Georgia also had 6 first-place votes, but apparently Tennessee had a few more like second and third place votes because they had more overall points to go into that. So Tennessee projected to win the conference tournament or win the SEC regular season. Tennessee also is leading the way in the all SEC race for the preseason. Tennessee has 5 players on the preseason all SEC list. You got McKenna Gibson, Peyton Gottschall, Kiki Malloy, Carlin Pickens, and Azada Pooney. And you've also got McKenna Gibson and Kiki Malloy are preseason All-Americans, first-team All-Americans. So a lot of praise going out for some Lady Vol players.
Yeah, brother. As deserved, too. I mean, the big-time ball players. The stream changed your name, so you might want to change that if you want to. Yeah, get your TikTok back on. No, the softball team's stacked this year, man. A lot of returning players. We haven't even mentioned really the pitching staff on the softball team, but I'm telling you, man, it's a softball. So the team has been good for quite some time now under Miss Karen Weekly, and she's got this team humming. And I know Oklahoma is a machine, but if there had to be a comfortable number 2 machine of a softball program, that is what we are. And it's really time to handle business as they have done so far in the first week and get back to where we belong. And I know it's really early to talk about it, but man, I mean, I'm really excited about what's going to end up probably becoming a rivalry between Oklahoma and Tennessee. To try to be the top of the softball world.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I kind of enjoy about the way softball has been going the last couple of years is, us growing up, especially in college softball, most of the time you see teams, they have, one dominant pitcher. Sometimes you have a second dominant pitcher, and it's every single game they're going out there and they're pitching. Because, softball players can do that. You can pitch constantly, and because of the arm motion, it doesn't hurt your shoulder like the baseball throwing motion does.
And the rules are a little different. Like, some people don't understand that like a starting pitcher for softball can go out and actually come back into the game, something that in baseball you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So how awesome is it that you see, which Tennessee has kind of been one of those exceptions, other than whenever Monica Abbott was at Tennessee, she was that dominant pitcher, but Tennessee has kind of been ahead of the curve as far as a pitching rotation. You've had teams like Oklahoma just have one dominant pitcher. Teams like Alabama have one dominant pitcher, where Tennessee, they've got 2 and 3 players that they could throw at you at any time. And now you're seeing every softball team has got 2, 3, 4 pitchers that they can throw at you at any given time. You've got the slower pitchers that are going to paint the corners. You got the faster ones that are going to blow you away with pitches. And Tennessee's probably at the top of the country as far as that good mix of pitching.
Yeah, and that's what you got to have, because no matter how dominant of a pitcher you are, Alabama had a great one the last
Jackie Trainer.
Yep, last 3 or 4 years.
Oh yeah, Monica Fouts is the one that you talked about.
Yeah, Montana Fouts, I believe.
Yeah, Montana.
But even the best of pitchers are gonna have an off game at some point. And so it's really nice to have a number 2 that you can turn to, especially if that off game comes in like a game 3 of a series, or once it's tournament time and one of those games that you either win in advance or you go home. And it's really nice to have other tools in the toolbox that you can bring out when your number 1 isn't really working out. Fortunately for Tennessee, man, we have about 2 or 3 that we can throw out there on any given game and really, really rely and depend on them to get us the exact same result. No matter, and honestly, the baseball team's been the same way. And this year's going to be a little different, and we'll get to that. But, softball having that deep rotation and like you mentioned, 3 years ago, I don't even feel like we had that deep of a rotation. So it's nice that Coach Weekly has been able to coach this up, recruit some pitchers in, and build up this pitching staff to where really it's not really a worry going into a game anymore. Like you don't have to worry about, not pitching Pickens or whatnot. So
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you've got 4 pitchers on this staff right now, and 3 of them, I mean, you can start on any given night. I don't know much about the 4th one, but you've got Peyton Gottschall. She's a graduate transfer from Bowling Green. She was there last year as well, but I believe this is her last year this year. So Peyton Gottschall is a really good pitcher. You got sophomore Carlin Pickens, man. She is impressive, and she throws that ball hard. I think I was listening the other day. She touches like mid-70s.
Which is like equivalent to like 99 to 100 in baseball when you talk about the distance to I guess they call it hand to glove time. I don't know what they call it.
It's insane, just how quick that is. And then Riley White, transfer from Texas. She's a senior. She's very good. And don't know much about this player, but you got Charlie Orsini, sophomore pitcher that came from Australia. I do know that she got to pitch a little bit the other day. I need to watch her a little bit more, but some young talent as well as some older talent to go along with all the talent that Tennessee's got in the field as well. And, let's just go ahead and let's talk about this first game, get into some game action, and we can talk a little bit more about some of these girls in the field that have done a fantastic job so far.
Let's talk about it. So Thursday night, the Lady Vols started their season against University of Texas Arlington at UT Arlington. But I think they did that. I think they squeezed that game in there because they knew they were playing at Baylor, so they did kind of like a midweek there. But they got a dominating shutout win, 15-0. Pretty much everybody ate in that game. Bats hot right off the bat. I mean, literally right off the bat. And got a big win. But then they obviously played a doubleheader on Friday, and rain canceled the rubber game, actually it was the 3rd game of the series, but we had already won the series. But against Baylor. But the Lady Vols, man, they kind of did it both ways already in the first week. I mean, they won big, they won in clutch moments, and it's good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to spend any more time on the UT Arlington game. That was
no. Yeah.
That was one of those that Tennessee did what was expected of them. 15-0 win in 5 innings. But I do want to talk about this second game.
I've got a crazy stat about this game.
Okay.
Crazy. Baylor had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that Tennessee did not have a single hit.
We only had like 2 base runners. One was like a fielder's choice, and I think there was a walk in there in one of the innings. But no, we didn't have a single hit until the 6th inning, and that's when really that's the difference in the game. I mean, Baylor was in control. It was 2-0 going into that inning, and we scored 3 runs in the final 2 innings. So I guess we scored 1 in the 6th inning, and then just an absolute clutch. I'll let you talk about it, man. It was crazy to think to me that we had literally 0 hits going into the 6th inning, and yet we still come out and get the win, big time clutch fashion.
Yeah. So Tennessee actually started. So trying to see where it's at. Tennessee, I guess it was just Carlin Pickens that pitched. Maybe I cut that page off somewhere, but I know Carlin Pickens ended up getting the win, and she did a very good job.
Riley White as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Riley White. That's the one I was looking for. Yeah, there it is. I see now. Riley White started the game, and she did a good job. She had some good numbers, but ended up bringing in Carlin Pickens into the game to finish it off. Baylor was getting base runners every single inning. It seemed they couldn't push any runs across. And I credit that to Tennessee's defense. But, you mentioned Tennessee's bats were not going until that 6th inning. They pushed across 1 run. McKenna Gibson singled to center, and Riley West ended up scoring off of that. And then this is where the excitement happened, man. Top of the 7th inning, Tennessee is down to their final out. Laura Mailer standing on second after she stole second on a strikeout pitch on the batter before, and they went and reviewed it because they called her safe, and it was very, very close.
Very close.
And she ended up still being safe. And then Destiny Rodriguez comes in to pitch hit for Katie Taylor, and a 2-run shot to center field to take the lead 3-2. And I texted you as soon as it happened. I said, man, clutch.
Yeah. No. And Destiny Rodriguez is as hot as you could be to start the season. I mean, I think she's only had like 4 at bats. She's got 2, I think maybe home run. I can't remember. I don't have the stats put up right in front of me, but her on base percentage right now is like dang near 840 in the first 3 games of the season. So it's just clutch moment. Only at bat of that game, by the way.
A pinch hit at bat.
Yeah, a pinch hit at bat. She comes in. The moment's not too big for her. It's literally, I mean, every player on this team knows they've been there before. They were at the World Series last year, and she just steps up to the box, delivers just an absolute bomb. And it was it's crazy, man. Like, it feels like we're already mid-season with the softball team, and it was a big clutch win to start the night. And no doubt that momentum carried them to get a big win over Baylor in game 2.
Yeah, that second game of the doubleheader, Tennessee just, like as you mentioned, they just carried the momentum over and beat Baylor 9-1. And they left no doubt at the end of that game either. It was 4-1 going into the 6th inning, and Tennessee puts up 5 runs in the top of the 6th inning to just break the game wide open. And a shout out to Kiki Malloy in this game as she hit a home run in this game. She is now tied for the most home runs in Tennessee softball history. And we're in game 3 of this season. So she is no doubt going to break that record and, I mean, completely shatter it by the time the end of the season comes.
Yeah, and it was actually, that inning was really fun because it was back-to-back home runs by Kiki Malloy and then Riley West. And I'm telling you right now, Riley West is a player you want to keep a watch on. I know Kiki Malloy steals the spotlight, as she should. She's one of the best players to ever come through the program. But Riley West, man, she's pretty freaking good, and she eats gator for lunch. I don't know if you remember last year at all, but I was reading through some of her accolades, and man, she like single-handedly beat Florida Gators 3 times in a row between the 3-game series, where she had a grand slam, I think a 2-run home run to take the lead, and then hit a double to take the lead as well over the Florida Gators last year. Riley West is a player that it's crazy to have one player right on your lineup that anytime they step up to the plate, you have a feeling it could be a home run. Tennessee has about all of them.
I was going to say,
all of them.
You got the perfect mix on this team of speed and power. I mean, you've got players like Kiki Malloy, Riley West, Zeta Pooney, Destiny Rodriguez. I mean, anytime they step up to the plate, they can go yard. And then you've got players like McKenna Gibson. You know, she's also in that mix of she can knock the ball out of the park too, but she's a little bit more of a speed person. Sophia Nugent is another one of those. And then you got transfer players. She's been DHing some to start the year. Laura Mailer from MTSU. Yeah. She's very quick. I mean, she came in to pinch run in the end of that game against Baylor where they won 3-2. And, you know, I mentioned she got the steal to go to second base. So you've got some speed on that team as well. So Tennessee can win however they need to.
No, absolutely. And I love the way their schedule sets up to start the season. Obviously, you had a big top 25 matchup against Baylor. You win both of those games. It was a big weekend for SEC softball in general. I think every top 25 matchup the SEC had, they won. I mean, I could be completely wrong on that, but I think I've seen a graphic like that the SEC shared on Instagram. And that's huge. I mean, that's pretty. Softball, it's obviously means more every time in the SEC, but to start out the year like that, and then to turn around, Tennessee is going to be playing Kennesaw State in the midweek here Wednesday, but then they're right back in a tournament where they're going to get to play Stanford, Texas, Georgia Tech, UCLA, and Florida State Friday through Sunday, actually. Florida State's scheduled for Sunday. So we're going to get to know real quick just exactly kind of where we're at against the competition, because I have a good feeling that I know where we're at, and that's top 4 in the country, but top 2 in the country. But I love, because even the baseball team kind of does this, and they just have a really good schedule right off the gate. There is no warm-up games or warm-up weeks per se. I mean, they get right into it, play some ball, see where we're at. And this softball team, like I said, they get a quick little breath Wednesday, February 14th, and then they're right back into some work this weekend. For folks that don't know, to catch the baseball and softball games on a regular basis, not that they're paid endorsement, but ESPN Plus is going to be where you can find these games, because they do not really play on national television at all unless it's a big weekend or a tournament or something like that. Like this weekend, they'll play on ESPN2 and ESPNU, stuff like that, because they're in a tournament. But as far as the midweeks, stuff like that, there's just too many games for it all to fit on the TV schedule. So you'll have to get ESPN Plus. It is an app, or you can get it on the website. Sign into that. I think it's $60 for the year. And between baseball, basketball, softball, I get my fair share of use out of it. I think it's totally worth the money.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, almost all the baseball games are on ESPN Plus. So, but take advantage of that. And also during the football season, everybody's mad because they can't watch one of those games, if not 2. And that's because they are also on ESPN Plus. And we talked about that in the football season, but that's what I'm saying. Like $60 for the whole year, totally worth it. That's how you'll be able to catch some of these games. But with the softball team coming up this weekend, definitely getting a preview of what to come for the rest of the year. And couldn't be more excited, honestly. This team, and so does the baseball team. We'll get into the baseball team here in just a second. But this team has a lot riding on this season. I think they feel that. I think Karen Weekly knows that. And I'm pretty excited for it.
But this is early expectations. I'm not afraid to say that I think it's College World Series or bust for this softball team, because
it is.
It is. And really, I'm going to say, it's the Final Four of the College World Series or bust. I think that's a little bit.
Well, they were 5th technically last year, so I mean, they were almost there.
Actually, they were tied for 3rd last year, because all they had to do was beat Florida State, and they would have gone to play against Oklahoma for the championship.
Yeah, so I mean, no, they are, and that's I don't know what bust really means, because I don't think, if they don't make it, they don't make it. We're all pissed, but Karen Weekly's not getting fired.
No. And I didn't mean it that way. It's just I feel like it is. So better way.
Definitely a letdown.
I think it's College World Series or the season is a fail.
And I would agree with that, because I'm telling you, this softball team is pretty deep, very experienced, and I think all the players know that, though. I think they know that they're really frustrated with how last year, because of the World Series, they wanted Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
They got Oklahoma, they lost, but it was a really good game, and they wanted to play them again. And then lost to Florida State, I believe, before that could happen. But no, this team's got a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to go out there and play like it every day, and pretty excited about it. And without further ado, let's kind of turn this thing over to the men's baseball team. They start this week, actually. I had the schedule pulled up. They play in the Shriners College Showdown this weekend, and let's not even blink. They're playing Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Baylor in the first 3 games. There is no warm-up game. Like I said, they're straight into baseball season, something we love to see. But kind of want to get your thoughts. Last year was kind of like a Cinderella type story, because we wouldn't really expect it to make the College World Series after losing literally like 90% of our team the year before, where we went literally crazy, like 50-1. I'm joking. We didn't go that bad. But no,
it was close though.
Yeah, it was insane. You never seen a run like that in baseball, really. But no, what are your thoughts on the team this year? Because now I kind of feel like they're the same way. They know they've made it. They've had some adjustments. They've had to bring in some new guys, but not really near as much as the year before that. I think maybe we're talking 2 or 3 on the starting lineup that may be a little bit different this year. But what are your thoughts on the team this year? I know we both played some baseball. We really love this time of year in the spring. But what are your What are your thoughts on this team?
I think as far as the team as a whole, when it comes to in the field, at the plate, and all that, they're very solid. I mean, you're returning some guys like Christian Moore, who is preseason All SEC. He's also a preseason third team All American. You got guys like Blake Burke that are returning. You got center fielder Hunter Inslee returning as well. You got guys like that, as well as Zane Denton, who I think is the biggest returning player of them all, based on the numbers that he's bringing back from last year. And then you're bringing in transfers like Billy Amick is how you said it. And if we're saying that wrong, that somebody can correct.
Could be Amick. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not really. We'll know once we get the game. Once the guy announces the starting lineup, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, so you got guys like him, and a guy that I heard some big things from. They actually had a inter-squad scrimmage this past weekend. Guy that I heard big things from, transfer Cannon Peebles from NC State, said in the 2 games that they played this past weekend, he homered 3 times.
Whew,
so
okay.
he can also tear the cover off the ball. And that's
thank you for making me feel like my mock lineup is going to be complete garbage. So yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. So I mean, you've got a good all around team, in my opinion. You've got some younger talent who have been talked about really high by Tony Vitello and right fielder Kavarius Tears, as well as a guy who I believe is going to be in left field, Dylan Dreiling. Those were some guys, some young guys that stepped up to the plate a few times last year in pitch hitting situations that got some big hits. So the one area of concern that I have, but I think they're going to be fine at, is pitching. I mean, you did lose Dolander last year to the draft. You lost Chase Burns to the transfer portal. He went to Wake Forest. But you do keep Drew Beam, who is preseason All SEC. He's also a second team preseason All American this year. You've got AJ Russell is a guy that I heard some big things from in the scrimmages yesterday. So you've got some good arms. I'm just ready to see how they do this year.
Yeah, it's going to look different, man. Because man, I hate that we lost. It's all good. Drew Beam, I think, is going to be the star, the ace. He's obviously 3 years in now. He's been that consistent guy that we can rely on. But the bullpen is going to be something that is kind of a question mark. Like, I know we got Kirby Cannell still. We got a lot of lefties, honestly, which is good to see. But no, I'm very excited about the lineup that I think we're going to see coming up this weekend, and just how it kind of feels like we're getting back to that deep style of lineup that we had in 2021, where it really didn't matter who stepped up to the plate, the ball could go flying. I feel like we're getting back to that. And last year we didn't really have that. I'll be honest. It was 3 or 4 guys, and if they had a bad game, the offense kind of just didn't click. But I know that's crazy to think. I think we still hit like 100 home runs. But it just didn't feel the same. But this year, man, I'm thinking that we're getting back to that. But without getting too far into it, do you have a bit? I know I said that I did this, but I didn't know if you did. Do you have kind of like a mock lineup for the team this year? Or?
So I'm going to kind of do this on the fly. I do have a pretty good idea.
I think we're pretty close. Yeah.
I do think I have a pretty good idea of who I think is going to be starting this year. So I think you're going to see Cannon Peebles start at catcher this year, especially after what I heard yesterday. If not, it's going to be your mix of either Cal Stark or Charlie Taylor. But I think because of the amount,
just read out every single one of them on the roster, then why don't you? I was trying to.
I ain't going to do that. I said I think Cannon Peebles is going to. So you're going to have Cannon Peebles starting the catcher. Okay. So
there, finally.
First base, Blake Burke. Second base, you got Christian Moore. Shortstop is the one area that I'm not 100% sure about. I believe you might see a player like Zane Denton play shortstop some because you got transfer Billy Amick, however you say his name, that is probably going to be starting at third. Left field, I believe you got Dylan Dreiling. Center field, Hunter Inslee. And right field, Kavarius Tears.
Okay. I got you. I'm a little different. Not really. It's almost the same. I got leading off Christian Moore, second base. I think that's
okay. I didn't go through an actual lineup
I did, dude. I went all out on this. All right. I went all out on this.
See, that's where you're a baseball guy and I'm a basketball guy.
I know, dude. I'm ready for this season, bro. No, I really think there's about 6 to 7 of these guys that are guaranteed starters. And I'll just say Christian Moore, I thought Zane didn't, but I'm hearing some talk that maybe he's got some competition under his belt. Blake Burke, Kavarius Tears, Hunter Inslee, and Dylan Dreiling. But no, I've got Christian Moore starting out second base. And then I had the shortstop that unfortunately has ACL issues. He's still recovering, and I think he's got about 2 to 3 weeks left on the recovery from that before he's really back to 100%. And that is Ariel Antigua. He's an incoming freshman this year, but man, I mean, he's stolen the show. I guess I'm not sure how he could do that. I don't know if it's just from film, because obviously if he's got ACL issues, he's not been practicing. But I mean, they were very high on this kid, really expected him to be the day one, competing for starting position. But I think with Zane Denton and Billy Amick, you got 2 guys that just played the crap out of third base. I wonder if they move Billy to shortstop to fill in that role and keep Zane Denton at third. I just don't see how you don't start Zane Denton after the season he had last year. And he
that's where I swapped it, and I put Zane at short and you put Billy at third.
And you might could do that. Fair enough. But I was so fixated on last year. I'm like, Zane Denton was our third baseman, and he had a hell of a season. How do you not have him there? But then again, you have Billy, who's coming in as a friggin' preseason All-American. So I could absolutely see that. But I've got Billy, I guess, filling in the role and batting second. Zane Denton batting third. I've got Blake Burke, massive home run or bust kind of guy, hitting fourth, playing first base. I actually have Cal Stark starting at catcher, but I didn't know about your guy popping off this past weekend, Cannon Peoples, for I guess 3 home runs. That's pretty wild. So he probably may get the start there, but I'm sticking with Cal Stark because I think he had a pretty good season last year.
Yeah.
But then I've got Tears out in left field, batting sixth. I got Hunter Inslee batting seventh and center. Hunter Inslee was clutch late in the season, but he went really cold right at the end of the regular season. And I think he was like 1 of 18 to end the season. And that's why I have him so low in the lineup, because honestly, I think he should, and I think he has room to rise. But for right now, I'm keeping him there. But he still has pop potential. I mean, if he gets a hold to one, he's got the power and the strength to hit one well over the fences. But at 8th, I've got Dylan Dreiling playing right field. And then I'm sure they'll have a pinch hitter for the pitcher. But I have Drew DH. Yeah, the DH. And I didn't really do that much homework. But we'll figure it out, man. That was kind of my mock lineup. I'm really excited about it. It's probably going to be completely wrong, but at least I have one on record.
I think the two of us, we've kind of got most names the same right there. One thing that both of us have opposite is, I think that it'll be Tears in right field and then Dreiling in left field, and you got them swapped. I mean, either way, we've got the same starting outfield. It's just, opposite sides. And, man, Dreiling and Tears, they have some pop in the bat. I know a little bit more about Tears. I think you do as well. I know I played against Tears. He was a senior my freshman year, so that would have been I had that backwards. I was a senior his freshman year, which would have made you a junior. And I've actually got a little story about him real quick. So
yeah, he's from Lewisburg, right?
Yeah, he's from Lewisburg, played for Columbia Academy. My brother-in-law was also a freshman on the team. We both played for Cornersville, and I begged the coach to let me catch in one JV game. And he finally let me do it against CA. And my brother-in-law got to pitch that game. And brother-in-law is a lefty. Tears is a lefty. And I got behind the plate, and my very first pitch that I called was a inside fastball.
Yeah.
And when I tell you that ball left, it left. Luckily, it was a foul ball, but he hit that thing, and I stood up and I said, "Holy crap!" I'm not calling that one again. But long story short, there, my brother-in-law actually ended up striking him out. But,
hey, there it is. So you got to see the potential, and you got the little victory right there.
Yeah, we sure did. But man, that ball. So I know you played at Cornersville before, but you got the road that goes behind the outfield there.
The trees and whatnot. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that ball went over the road into the driveway of the house across the street by about 50 feet.
Missing about 52 stitches.
Yeah. So I mean I got to see the raw power that Kavarius Tears has. So I can speak for that from experience.
No, that's awesome. I fell in love with the kid when he came into Tennessee last year, and I think he was a freshman, and he like pitched hit and just drilled one. I think he hit a home run, or he like golf swing. Like, I don't know. It was very clutch. It was, I think it might have been against Vanderbilt. Yeah, it was against Vanderbilt. It was
that was the game that Tears did it, and then Dreiling did it like back to back and tied the game up.
That literally is what powered us to a sweep that weekend.
And that's what turned the whole season around last year.
I fell in love with that kid when that happened. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Yep, that's him. He's him. Like, and so ever since then, these guys are only at the bottom of the lineup just because I think the top of the lineup so stout. I do think there's room for moving, but I like it when you're 7, 8, 9 strong, because then when Christian Moore gets back up to the top of the lineup and you may have, one or two guys on base, Christian Moore has got as much potential to hit a bomb as anybody. And so that's why I was saying, like I said earlier, I feel like we're getting back to that lineup where it feels like no matter who's at the line or who's at the plate, the pitcher can't really take a batter off. And that's the ingredient you need to get back to Omaha.
Yeah. And I think that this team has got as much potential as any Tennessee team to do that. But you're also looking at a pretty stacked conference going into it, as Tennessee is actually projected to finish 4th in the regular season behind
LSU.
Florida. Florida was the unanimous number 1 team projected to win the conference this year. You got Arkansas projected to win or finish 2nd, LSU 3rd, and then it's Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M below them. So pretty good group of teams going in this year.
I think Vitello's confident. I got to see him this offseason in several occasions being with the chamber and whatnot, and he'll come out and do some public speaking opportunities and whatnot. But I think he's confident in his team. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of unknowns around the pitching staff just because we haven't seen them. It's going to be a little bit different this year. And there are some familiar faces in the staff, but I think that's kind of the biggest question mark. But moving forward, man, I just want to ask you, we got a series or 3-game series this weekend in tournament style. What's your prediction? What do we finish over the weekend?
I'm gonna say 2-1. I don't know who the wins and losses are going to be against. I don't know much about either of the 3 teams that they play, but I mean, you look at the names: Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Baylor. I mean, those are some pretty big name schools all out in the Big 12 right now. I mean, you will have Oklahoma coming into the SEC next year, but I'm going to go 2-1. I think Tennessee can easily win 2 games this weekend. You could see a clean sweep, but really, I just want to see the team on the field first before I start making a whole lot of predictions. But I do think 2-1.
Yeah, but we got to make it fun. I think 2-1's realistic. I'd love to go 3-0, but we all know how last year started when we were pretty high on them.
Yeah,
we started out 0-2.
Yeah, last year started out rough, and I think that there will be some stretches this year where Tennessee has some spots where they stumble and need to get back on track. But as long as they do it before the end of the season, as long as they hit their stride right there before the tournament and right there at tournament time, I think everything's going to be all right.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for the baseball and softball segment. We're going to wrap this show up with segment 3. It's going to be a very short segment. We just kind of want to give you guys an update on like the NCAA investigation or trial, whatever you want to call it. And then also some recruiting. We got a little bit of news as we picked up a 3-star wide receiver, Jakeem Dotson. But now that kid's a 3-star. Everybody kind of like, oh, whatever, 3-star. that kid's going to shoot up the rankings. He chose us over Ole Miss, and I think Auburn. There was another team in the mix for that. And he's like ranked as the 9th. He's a top 10 athlete in the state. So he's going to shoot up the rankings. But this is a good pickup for the 2025 class. And it kind of keeps the ball rolling. I mean, we were kind of quiet on the recruiting trail after George McIntyre joined. But it's nice to get back on the trail right there. And Abby, thank you for joining the stream. We appreciate you tuning in. But the NCAA, man. So everybody's asking, like, what's the latest? What's the latest? Well, so technically, on paper, the NCAA got round 1 as the judge ruled against the TRO, which I don't know really much about it, but I'm pretty sure that would have kind of postponed or delayed or, cut off contacts to all recruits for I guess a week or so until they kind of get this thing moving forward. But the judge ruled against it, said that's not necessary. But in the details, according to the Sports Animal and some various articles, is that he ruled against it, but in his comments said that due to the evidence provided by the plaintiffs, it was pretty clear that we were going to be successful in the next round and the war, if you want to call it. So I guess the judge felt like it was really just unnecessary. There was no potential to upholding the TRO. So he just denied it, let it go on to the next level. I don't know much about any of this. I'm just trying to keep it updated so I can keep you guys updated. But the thing that I'm a little worried about, and I kind of was telling this to Michael earlier, and I've spoken to a lot of folks about it. I just don't see a positive outcome out of this for either side. Michael, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't see this being a positive outcome, not just for either side, but for college football, really college sports in general. Listening to a little bit of it, whatever happens with this lawsuit, is mainly going to be about football, but it's going to trickle down to the other sports, and it's going to hurt the other sports down the line. Sorry, hit my table.
No,
there.
You're good.
But yeah, I don't think it's going to be good for anybody going down the line. I really don't know what's going to happen. I'm kind of in the wait and see stage, but yeah.
I'm kind of thinking, and I've been thinking this for a while, just ever since NIL got introduced. It's the beginning of the end of NCAA. But the problem is, you're not going to get rid of the NCAA. There's going to be another, organization that takes over. Like, you're not just going to have college sports with no championship. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. But I do feel like the NCAA is kind of just, with these lawsuits, I feel like it's going to kind of piggyback, as we all know, the state of Virginia and Tennessee's filed a lawsuit over antitrust violations with NIL, the rules that they were making or the guidelines that they were making that's just completely violating that, which is why you're seeing a lot of these articles. I mean, Tennessee, Virginia have lawyered up with these sports lawyers that have apparently been chopping at the bit to do this, have been waiting to do this because they knew when NIL got introduced that they couldn't place guidelines on what an athlete or a player can make on his name, image, and likeness. So, like I said, there's a bunch of unknowns. I wish I was an insider. I wish I could tell you more on it, but I really am. I'm just a messenger, and this is what I'm hearing across the boards. But my internal gut feeling just feels like, as a fan, I'm not worried about the implications that this has on the team, because I do feel like that our organization, our leadership, when it came out as strong as they did, without knowing for an absolute fact they did nothing wrong. However, what good is that really going to do if there's no NCAA after all this is over with? Is it a good thing? Maybe, I don't know, but I have heard that it's going to get to the point to where it's just they're just going to basically employ the players, which that rabbit hole is really weird. There's going to have to be a gray area medium that they can fit into, but they just got to be clear on it, clear and strict. And right now they're not. They just kind of apply whatever they want to against whoever they want to. And I think that's where Tennessee is just fed up with it.
And that's the thing with all this. The whole reason that the lawsuit came out anyway is there is no rules right now, and there never has been. So that's the problem with all of it.
But you can't do it. Like, that's the thing. You can't place rules on NIL. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense to me. It might not to some other people out there, but at the same time, there's a lot of it that doesn't make sense to me too. It, like I said, it's a wait and see type thing for me. I'm keeping up with it just so we have something to talk about with it, kind of update folks. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't really care. I think Tennessee's in the right over all of it. So I'm not really worried about it.
Whether the right or the wrong, I don't feel like Tennessee's done anything that no other college has done.
Absolutely.
And that's just being factual about it.
Yeah, because listening to EA show, talking about Brian Rice up there, Eric's co-host, he said that by the time it's all said and done, there's gonna be like another 16 to 18 schools that are gonna be in that lawsuit, or sorry, not in the lawsuit, that are going to have allegations thrown out against them from the NCAA, because everyone's doing this. Everyone is doing the NIL stuff like Tennessee is doing. There is no one school that is doing anything that nobody else is doing. So there's going to be another 16 to 18 schools that are going to have allegations put out against them. And just a short list of some of those schools, it's going to be Alabama, Ohio State, Ole Miss. Florida's already got some against them.
Which is crazy, because Florida's got one against them over a kid that didn't even go to the school.
Didn't even get paid. So
it's wild. And then there's also some tampering allegations with Kirk Herbstreit, with the Georgia quarterback that transferred to Nebraska. And apparently Kirk Herbstreit had a hand in that. There's I'm telling you, man, it's the tangled spider webs behind the scenes of everything that's going on right now is really wild. And that's why I just zoom out. And as long as a third down still means the same come in the fall, it is what it is.
Yep,
but
absolutely. So just sit back, grab your popcorn, grab your drink.
All right,
let's go with it, man.
All right, Lane Kiffin, I see you, my boy. But no, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Vol Fanatics Show. And I appreciate everybody tuned in, listening. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like, subscribe, follow button wherever you listen, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, Apple Podcasts. We are trying to get everywhere. We have our TikTok pages on screen. You can see that, but we don't stream on TikTok. But I appreciate you guys. Share the show out, because even after we get finished, they will be able to watch it later. No, that's gonna, I think, wrap it up for us. Mike, do you have any last remarks?
Yeah. So one thing that I do ask those watching on Facebook, which most people that are watching are on Facebook right now, if you don't mind, just go to the YouTube and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. YouTube is where a lot of our numbers come in. Down the stretch here, we are over 200 subscribers now on YouTube. I think I looked before we went live, we were up to 204. But if you don't mind, just go over, give us a subscribe on the YouTube channel. That helps build our numbers. You can keep watching on Facebook, and we appreciate that. Facebook is blowing up, by the way. I think, what are we up to? Almost like 250 followers on Facebook now, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But it's all thanks to friends and family sharing out the show. I will get you an actual 249. So we need one more.
Yeah, one more person go and like it real quick. But one last thing before we go, Skylar, Super Bowl tonight. Who you got?
Oh, dude, what is that?
I'll be honest.
Who's playing in that? Is it the Titans? No, not the Titans. Let's see. I do have a bet on the game, but it's not for a team. It's just I want everybody to hit the overs on the yardages. So 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So basically, it's Taylor Swift versus the 49ers.
I was going to say, are you going with the Swifties, or are you going to go with the 49ers?
Let me ask you this before I get into this. Did you really believe that Taylor Swift was going to miss this game?
Absolutely not. She was going to make it.
She's probably going to be in the halftime show. I'm just saying.
She might be, but talking about the shows, me and the wife are going to be tuning in at the very beginning, because her favorite singer is doing the national anthem in Reba McEntire. So, the queen of country music is doing the national anthem, and that's a big plus.
Dang right, dude. Team Usher. So we've already had one person comment and say they are for the 49ers. That is Misty. That is my mother, and also my boss. But she thinks it's 49ers all the way.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, Abby. I think both of us were hitting the hide in the show at the same time, so it didn't pop up. But
my bad. No, it's let's see. So I'm kind of torn. So we're a Vol Fanatics show. I'm gonna root for the Vols, but unfortunately, there's two very important Vols that play on either team or both teams. You got Trey Smith for Kansas City, and then you have Juwan Jennings, who's just been a dog for the Niners here in the postseason with some clutch plays. And I love them both, man. They represent Tennessee so well. They love the University of Tennessee. Juwan Jennings had a weird story where he got kicked off the team, but was able to come back under Jamie Pruitt and really redeemed himself. But obviously had the big catch against Georgia. The last time we beat Georgia was the Hail Mary. So I think I would be okay, and I think the world would be okay if Kansas City did not win this game. And so I'm going to go for the 49ers, but I think if I'm a betting man, the story is just there for the Chiefs to win another one.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. I have nothing against them. I do think they were a bit of crybabies during the year this year, but every professional that knows that they're their best seems to have that same type of issue. LeBron James. No, I think I'm gonna root for the Niners. I think I'm gonna roll with Juwan Jennings, and honestly, I think Christian McCaffrey was snubbed to the MVP wholeheartedly, and so I'd like to see him get a ring.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm also gonna root for the Niners. I really don't care who wins the game.
I didn't even realize there was a game tonight, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, I really don't care who wins the game. If I am gonna pick a team, I think I'm gonna go with the Niners, but you mentioned it. Everything right now is just lining up for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl because you got, the whole Taylor Swift thing. You got did you know this, that other than the first game of the playoffs, the Chiefs have been an underdog in every single game that they played in the playoffs?
They didn't believe them on the road, and they went out there and proved them wrong. But
Yes.
that's the reason. They were on the road at almost every playoff game, and credit to them. They went to Buffalo and got the big win. And I don't know. That's about all I followed with it. So,
yeah. So I'm going to go with the 49ers, but ultimately I've got no really rooting interest in this game. I'm like you. I want to see our Vol for Lives go out there and play well. I do know Trey Smith has been banged up, but if I know anything about Trey Smith from Tennessee, if he's got a chance of playing, he's going to play in that ball game. And then Juwan Jennings, he's been a big part of that team this year, especially for the 49ers this year, especially when Deebo Samuel went down in the playoffs. Juwan Jennings was the guy that stepped up to fill that role as the main pass catcher. So interested to see what's going to happen tonight. Like I said, have no rooting interest in the game. But again, guys, if you would give us likes, follows on all the social media we've got. Facebook is the Vol Fanatics Show. Twitter at Vol Fanatics 1998, Instagram at Vol Fanatics Show, YouTube is at Vol Fanatics Show, Spotify and Apple are both Vol Fanatics Show. As you see under our names here, my TikTok is Michael Allen 802, Skylar's is Vols Fanatic 343. So appreciate you liking, following on all of those. Appreciate you listening to us today, wherever you might be listening. And guys, go Vols.
Y'all be safe tonight. I know there's going to be a lot of partying and drinking, but just stay responsible and go Big Orange.